Welcome to the Haggin Museum. We're here to give you a sneak peek behind our upcoming temporary exhibit. I'm Susan, and this is Todd Rustaller. He's both our CEO and curator of history, so he's going to give you a little behind the scenes of the World War posters.
Good morning. We are extremely proud and pleased to be able to present this temporary exhibition here at the Haggin Museum. It's one of several temporary exhibitions that we sponsor every year to augment our permanent collection. And this particular exhibition is especially appropriate given the fact that April 2017 marks the 100th anniversary of the United States entry into World War I. And this exhibition is composed of posters, propaganda posters, from both the First and the Second World War, organized by the Reading Public Museum in Reading, Pennsylvania. And it is broken into a number of different categories. One deals with serving our troops at home and abroad, and there's a lot of Red Cross activity involved with this, but there were other social service groups that helped our troops both here in the United States before they embarked to Europe and once they were there. The other aspect that ties in nicely with the museum's collection is we are fortunate in being the museum with the largest collection of original works by the very successful 20th century commercial artist J.C. Landecker. And one of the works that we have by him, this is a poster, is the same poster that you see right now, USA bonds. You see Lady Liberty about to accept the sword, which says be prepared, which is the Boy Scout motto from a Boy Scout. The Boy Scouts were very active in a number of endeavors during the First World War, and one of these was sponsoring a bond drive. The bond drives provided the money that helped support the war effort for the United States, both in World War I and subsequently in World War II. We also have posters that appeal to one's patriotism, fight for your country. And probably one of the most iconic of these is by James Montgomery Flagg, the famous I Want You, with a stern-looking Uncle Sam pointing out and appealing directly to all of the young men and women who would see this poster and feel that they needed to help support the nation's war effort. What's interesting about this show is the majority of the posters are from the United States, collected over the years and donated to the Reading Public Museum, but we also have some European posters here as well, from Britain and at least one from France. And as I said, it's a combination of both works from the First World War and from the Second World War. And it's very obvious on this particular poster, Avenged December 7th, where you see an exploding ship, probably the USS Arizona, bombed by the Japanese on December 7th, 1941, and appealing to the patriotism of the American public to join the effort to fight. And this section, Deliver Us from Evil, also talks about the enemy. And in many instances, the enemy was portrayed as evil, the incarnate evil, in either the Germans during the First World War or the Germans and the Japanese during the Second World War. And in many instances, they portrayed the enemy as less than human. Both World War I and World War II saw women enter the workforce as well as the military. And a number of the posters on this wall all deal with that aspect of female involvement in the national war effort. And now we're going to test your agility to see if you can walk upstairs and film at the same time. Because this particular exhibition is located not only in the museum's West Gallery on the second floor, but also in the Thule Bird Gallery located on our third floor. Both World War I and World War II saw an unprecedented mobilization of industry to help support the war effort. And this next section deals with the various civilian industries that aided the nation in their war effort, both for World War I and World War II. And the effort here is teamwork wins, jobs for victory, encouraging the men and women involved in these war-related industries that their work was just as important to the national war effort as those who were actually serving in the military. The next section deals with how do you financially support war efforts on the scale of what we saw both in World War I and World War II. And in both instances, bonds were sold to the American public to help support that war effort. And so this selection, running all the way through, is talking about the need to contribute to the support of the war effort. They could buy war bonds, or on a smaller scale, war stamps that could be traded in for a war bond. And the whole point of this was, upon the cessation of hostilities, when those bonds matured, the public would be paid back with interest for their support of the war. And some of the most iconic images from World War II deal with Norman Rockwell's Four Freedoms, illustrating the four freedoms that were originally outlined in a speech by President Roosevelt, talking about why we needed to fight. And it's broken down: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. These were so popular, originally published in the Saturday Evening Post. They were so popular, people wanted reproductions of these to put up in their homes and offices. Then the final section deals with, when you have this many men and women in uniform during the First World War and the Second World War, we needed to conserve resources on the home front, and all of the posters here, and as we curve around into the North Alcove, deal with how the American public could support the war effort by conserving food, also by growing victory gardens or liberty gardens, depending on which war you're talking about. So we're encouraging people to save food resources. It was also a period that saw rationing on the home front, and certain foods were rationed: gasoline, tires, a number of products needed for the war effort were in shorter supply because of the war. And here we see Andrea and Nicole working on our lights. Hi! One of the things with works on paper, these are all chromolithographs, and they are sensitive to light, so we have to make sure the light levels are at such a degree that they will not degrade the images, so that people may enjoy these 100 years hence. The other nice thing about temporary exhibitions, they allow us to highlight aspects of our own core collections. Here we see some more posters asking people to save their food items. But here in the North Gallery, on the walls that are painted blue, we will be able to highlight aspects from the museum's archives and our history collections. Some of the highlights of this include these works by Stockton record illustrator and cartoonist Ralph Yardley. Ralph Yardley was born in Stockton in the 1870s. He basically earned his stripes as a newspaper illustrator in Hawaii, San Francisco, New York. And then in 1922, he returned to Stockton to work for the Stockton Record from 1922 until 1952 upon his retirement. And one of the aspects, every Monday, he did a special cartoon where the editorial cartoons would normally appear, called Do You Remember?, highlighting aspects of Stockton's past that he remembered and he was hoping to get the readers to remember as well. He did a series dealing with the First World War. Here's one shows this huge monument that was created in Hunter Square. There's the old second courthouse in the background, and it was to get young men to enlist. And you can see a number of posters, some of which are actually featured in this exhibition on display here. Another one of the drawings shows a contingent of Stockton draftees on their way to enlist. And also, this is a very interesting aspect, walnuts were being grown in the Stockton area for years. Almonds and other certain nuts, their shells were used in gas masks. They helped to filter out poisonous gases. And here the Boy Scouts were enlisted to help the Red Cross in collecting walnuts locally that were used to create the filters for gas masks. And another one shows how Stockton reacted to the information that the armistice had been signed November 11th, 1918. Here's the Stockton Record headline, "Peace, Huns Quit." And while they did not surrender, it was an armistice, the war was finally over. We also have, I had mentioned our J.C. Leyendecker collection, and most of our work in the J.C. Leyendecker collection is the original paintings, oil on canvas paintings. This is another item, which is a poster, and it shows, this is a poster to encourage enlistment in the United States Marines, but if you take a look at the bottom, there was always a space left. These were turned out by the thousands and shipped throughout the United States, and then you could put personalized information regarding the location of the recruitment office, and as you can see, the Marine Recruitment Office was on Main Street in Stockton in 1917 through 1918. And then another aspect, we have a wonderful costume collection here at the museum. And when we say costume, we don't mean something that would be worn by an actor or an actress. It's just a term for uniforms, dresses, other articles of clothing that are historic in nature. And we will have 4 costumes on display. This is from a gentleman by the name of George Francis Kitty, who was in the United States Army. He was part of a unit that became the 1st Gas Regiment, the first regiment in the United States Army to deal with one of the terrible weapons that was introduced during the First World War, poisonous gas. All the more timely, given what's been going on in Syria. And then also, the woman who made the Haggin Museum possible, Isla Haggin McKee, who donated money and paintings that allowed us to open on June 14, 1931. She served as a member of the Red Cross in the Home Communication Department, and she was stationed in Vichy, France. She spoke French fluently. She served as an interpreter for her commanding officer there, but she also organized special activities for the soldiers who were recuperating in what was known as Base Hospital 76, and she also wrote letters home to the family members of those soldiers who were wounded and who were recuperating and unable to write for themselves. And she also had the rather sad duty of keeping a record of those soldiers who were killed in action or were missing in action. And that's a preview of what we hope you will come and see on your own beginning this Thursday, April 20th, and running through Sunday, August 27th. Thank you.